What's going on with the Postal Service? The United States Postal Service, or USPS, has been in the midst of a crisis ever since the COVID-19 pandemic, and now faces more trouble from the actions of the Trump administration. The USPS is a product of the U.S. Constitution, deriving from Congress's ability to establish post offices and postal roads, and has existed in its current form as an independent agency since 1970. Multiple factors have contributed to the post office losing billions over a decade, from the 2006 Postal Accountability and Enhancement Act, which tackles prepaying pensions for the Postal Service's retirees, to a declining volume of mail. The current pandemic has brought an already bleeding agency more strife, none more so than what's happened this past week. The Trump administration, in an attempt to combat mail-in voting and attack businesses that use the mail like Amazon, has set in place new policies in order to cut costs and slow mail delivery. Newly appointed Postmaster General, Louis DeJoy, has faced harsh criticism over these changes, including protests outside his home demanding his resignation and the possibility of a House investigation and arrest, should the House reopen in the wake of these developments. DeJoy is expected to testify next Monday. On Tuesday, DeJoy backed down on implementing cuts to the USPS until after the 2020 election, in part due to being sued by several states, including California, and State Attorney General Xavier Becerra over these cuts. Trump has also withheld funding from the USPS over his belief that mail-in voting is ripe for fraud and could hurt his re-election chances and benefit Democrats come November. Neither conspiracy theory has been backed by substantial evidence.
But as you know, the Democrats aren't approving the proper funding for postal, and they're not approving the proper funding for this ridiculous thing that they want to do, which is all mail-in voting. If universal, you could call it mail-in voting. Again, absentee voting is great. You request, I'm an absentee voter because I requested, I got, and then I sent in my vote. So that works out very well. That's what we've had. If you look at what happened in New York and Virginia and various other places, it's a catastrophe. They're losing 20% of the votes. Nobody knows what's happened.
Trump's politicizing of the USPS has provoked backlash from the left, with the National Association of Letter Carriers, a major postal workers union, endorsing Joe Biden for president on Friday. The NALC joins the American Postal Workers Union, who endorsed Biden back in June. As the pandemic continues to wreak havoc in the United States, fears have risen over the virus's impact on polling locations. A majority of poll workers are older than 60, according to the Pew Research Center, and many other issues like social distancing and cleaning voting booths between uses are some of the issues with in-person voting during the pandemic. According to a Gallup poll, 64% of all voters favor allowing all voters to vote by mail or by absentee ballot in 2020. Only Republican voters were shown to have minority support for mail-in voting compared to independent and Democratic voters. No matter how voters vote in this election cycle, it can be certain that the USPS will be at the forefront of future debates and decisions. Cristobal Spielmann with Election 2020, reporting from Nashville, Tennessee.